The best advice I've ever heard about controlling your mind is this: stop overthinking and start doing. It sounds simple, right? But most of us get stuck in a loop of endless analysis, always thinking about what could go wrong instead of focusing on what actually works. If you want to take control of your mind and create real change in your life, you need to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start applying practical, real-world strategies. In this video, we'll explore how embracing the principles of pragmatism can help you break free from indecision, doubt, and fear, so you can make progress in ways you've never imagined. Ready to make that shift? Let's dive in. Number 1. Focus on practical outcomes. Imagine a world where everything you do is driven by a clear, practical purpose. You wake up each day with a sense of direction, knowing that every task you take on serves a bigger goal, one that directly affects your life and the world around you. It feels empowering, right? It's almost like waking up with a blueprint for your day. Every move purposeful, every step calculated to bring you closer to your desired results. The warmth of productivity and the satisfaction of seeing results are what drive us, and this is where pragmatism comes in, pushing you to focus on what truly matters, on the outcomes that you can see, touch, and measure. But here's the catch: it's not always that simple. We live in a world full of distractions. Social media, the pressure of endless self-improvement, and the constant flow of new ideas can make us lose track of what really works. We often find ourselves caught in endless cycles of theorizing and planning, but we fail to bring anything to fruition. It's like setting out on a road trip without a map. Sure, the journey might feel good, but you end up lost without reaching your destination. Pragmatism teaches us to look beyond these distractions and focus on outcomes. What actually works in real life, in your daily experience? What can you take from today and make into something practical tomorrow? How can your actions serve a purpose that goes beyond just the thoughts in your head or the fleeting trends that catch your attention? Think back to the moments in your life when you've been most fulfilled, whether it was finishing a project at work, tackling a personal goal, or even just spending time with loved ones. Those moments were grounded in results, real-world outcomes. They weren't just ideas, they were things that you could see, feel, and experience. So why is it that we sometimes get so caught up in abstract ideas, in things that may never come to fruition? Why do we sometimes prioritize the theory over the practical result? As you reflect on this, ask yourself, are you truly focused on practical outcomes, or are you just caught in a loop of daydreams? You might be surprised by how many people, even with the best intentions, get stuck in the same place. We forget that real progress comes not from endless pondering, but from doing. It's not enough to think about what could be, it's about making it happen. So, take a moment to think. What is something in your life that you can start focusing on today? What practical outcome could change the course of your life if you put your energy into it? Number 2, embrace belief. Flexibility. Have you ever found yourself deeply attached to a belief, only to later realize that it no longer serves you? Think back to those moments when you thought you had everything figured out. Maybe it was a belief about your career, a certain lifestyle, or even a set of values that seemed unwavering at the time. It felt like the truth, didn't it? Like you could never imagine being wrong or changing your mind. But as time passed and life threw new challenges your way, you started to question things. Maybe you learned something new, met someone with a different perspective, or just experienced life in a way that opened your eyes. Slowly, you began to realize that maybe your beliefs weren't as fixed as you once thought. The weight of rigidity in your beliefs started to feel a bit heavy, and you began to wonder if embracing flexibility might be the key to growth. This is where pragmatism truly shines. It teaches us that beliefs are not absolute truths, but tools for action, constantly evolving based on our experiences. Our beliefs should adapt to what works in the real world, not what feels comfortable or what we've been told is the right way. And this flexibility doesn't just apply to big philosophical concepts, it applies to the everyday beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world. For example, how many of us have held on to beliefs about our capabilities or limitations, only to later realize that those beliefs were based on outdated experiences or external pressures rather than our own potential? As you think about this, consider the time when you first learned something that challenged your belief system. Maybe it was an encounter with a different culture, a new piece of knowledge, or even an unexpected setback that made you rethink your goals. Those moments often create a sense of discomfort as we are faced with the truth that what we once held as gospel may not be as firm as we thought. But there's beauty in that discomfort. It signals an opportunity for growth. In this moment of change, you might feel nostalgic for the comfort of certainty, the stability of a fixed belief. But as you look back, isn't it clear that flexibility in your thinking has brought you to places you never imagined? It's allowed you to adapt, to overcome, and to flourish. When we embrace belief flexibility, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities. We don't have to hold on to outdated truths just because they've served us in the past. Instead, we can engage with the world as it is now, adjusting our thinking to fit our current reality. And this doesn't mean abandoning core values. It simply means recognizing when something no longer serves us and being brave enough to let it go. It's about evolving, not staying stagnant. When was the last time you re-examined a deeply held belief? What would happen if you allowed your mind the freedom to change? Number 3, decide by what works. Here's a question. How often do you make decisions based on what sounds right instead of what actually works in practice? It's easy to get caught up in the theory of things, isn't it? We spend hours reading books, listening to podcasts, or debating with friends about the best course of action. But when it comes down to making a decision, we sometimes still fall into the trap of following abstract ideas, what we think should work, rather than testing what truly does. In our minds, we hold on to ideas of how things ought to be, but in reality, it's the outcomes that matter. Think back to a time when you were faced with a big decision. Maybe it was about a job, a relationship, or a life change. How did you make your choice? Were you swayed by what sounded good or by what was actually proven to work? Many of us tend to prioritize advice, opinions, and strategies that appeal to us in theory. But pragmatism urges us to put aside theory for a moment and focus on what delivers results. The truth is, there's a big difference between theory and practice. Theoretical solutions can sound perfect, but unless they work in the real world, they're not worth much. You may be wondering, but how do I know what works? That's the beauty of pragmatism. It teaches you to test and adapt. Instead of waiting for the perfect solution to appear or relying on untested ideas, try putting your thoughts into action. You won't always know the outcome, but you can trust the process of experimentation. It's about finding what works for you in your unique context, not following a universal rulebook. As you think about this, you might feel a sense of curiosity bubbling up inside you. What if you could test your ideas without the fear of failure? What if you could make decisions based on what actually delivers results rather than what others say should work? The idea of deciding by what works isn't just about logic. It's about understanding that the world doesn't always follow a clear-cut path. It's about adapting to the unpredictable and staying open to change. When you embrace this mindset, you become less fearful of making mistakes and more willing to experiment. You stop holding on to rigid ideals and start shaping your decisions around practical outcomes. And in doing so, you'll discover that real progress comes from taking action and adjusting as you go along, rather than staying stuck in the theoretical. So, ask yourself this. What's one decision you've been putting off, and how can you approach it based on what works in practice? Number 4. Let go of certainty. Certainty. It's a comforting thought, isn't it? The idea that we can know exactly how everything will turn out, that we can have control over our lives and the future. It's easy to think that if we just follow the rules, if we just make the right choices, then everything will work out the way we imagine. It feels safe to hold on to certainty. It's like having a rock to lean on in the midst of a chaotic world. For many of us, certainty is a shield, a way to protect ourselves from the unknown. But as we grow older, as we experience more of life's unpredictability, we begin to realize something. The world doesn't operate on certainty. Life doesn't work like a textbook. It's messy, uncertain, and full of surprises. And in that uncertainty lies our greatest opportunity for growth. At first, letting go of certainty can feel unsettling, even scary. We've spent so much of our lives trying to control the uncontrollable, trying to map out every step, that the thought of abandoning certainty can seem like giving up control altogether. But when we really think about it, isn't it this very desire for certainty that holds us back? It's the fear of being wrong, the fear of failure, that keeps us stuck in patterns that no longer serve us. In reality, the need for certainty often stifles progress. It makes us hesitant to try new things, to explore unfamiliar paths, and to learn from our mistakes. Pragmatism teaches us that certainty isn't the answer. Instead, it's the ability to navigate the unknown that brings real wisdom. Think back to moments in your life when you felt truly alive. Perhaps it was a time when you stepped into the unknown, unsure of the outcome, but driven by the possibility of discovery. Those moments are often where the greatest personal growth happens. In those times, you probably didn't have all the answers, but you moved forward anyway, not because you were certain, but because you were willing to embrace the uncertainty and learn from it. And while uncertainty might have made you feel uneasy, it also opened up new opportunities, new perspectives, and new experiences. The more you look back, the clearer it becomes. The times when you let go of certainty and took that leap of faith are the moments that shaped you the most. So, what would it look like to let go of the need for certainty in your life? To allow yourself to make decisions without the pressure of knowing every possible outcome. In doing so, you give yourself permission to experiment, to take risks, and to embrace the flow of life as it unfolds. It's not about abandoning all logic. It's about accepting that sometimes the best way forward is to walk with uncertainty as your companion, rather than a rigid roadmap. The next time you face a tough decision, consider this. Can you make peace with the uncertainty? Can you trust the process and move forward even without a guarantee of success? Number 5, stay present in the moment. How often do you find yourself lost in thought, thinking about the past or worrying about the future? It's almost second nature to drift in and out of memories, to replay past experiences, or to imagine what could be. But in doing so, we often miss the richness of the present moment. The reality is, we live in a world where distractions are everywhere. From the constant stream of information on our phones to the noise of daily life, it's easy to feel disconnected from what's happening right in front of us. Yet, there is immense power in the present moment, in focusing on what's happening now, rather than what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow. When you ground yourself in the present, you connect with the world in a way that feels authentic and alive. Think about the last time you truly experienced a moment, whether it was enjoying a meal, spending time with family, or simply walking outside on a crisp morning. When you were fully present, the world felt clearer, more vibrant, didn't it? The colors seemed more vivid, the sounds more distinct. It's as if everything in that moment was aligned, and you were in sync with your surroundings. That feeling is the result of being present. But how often do we let our thoughts pull us away from it? We become so focused on the past, on regrets, on mistakes we've made, or the future, on what we want to achieve or the fear of what might come, that we forget to appreciate the here and now. It's easy to get lost in this mental whirlwind, but the more we do, the less we experience life fully. Now let's take a step back and reflect on those moments when we've been consumed by thoughts of the past or the future. How often has it led to stress or anxiety rather than clarity and peace? The truth is, we can't change the past, and the future is uncertain. But the present is where our power lies. It's the only moment where we can make an impact, where we can take action and make a difference. The more we focus on the present, the more we realize that we don't need to fix everything or predict every outcome. Instead, we can simply be in the moment, appreciating the little things that often go unnoticed. When we stay present, we also create space for mindfulness, an essential tool for controlling our minds. The more we practice being present, the less our minds are pulled in 1,000 directions. We become more attuned to our thoughts, more aware of what we need in that moment, and more able to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. So, the next time you feel your mind drifting, bring it back to the present. Engage with what's around you, the sights, the sounds, the people, and the experiences. You might be surprised by how much richer your life feels when you start to embrace the now, rather than worrying about the past or the future. Number 6, aim for progress, not perfection. We live in a world that constantly pushes for perfection. From Instagram filters that make everything look flawless to societal expectations that tell us how we should look, act, and achieve, perfection is often seen as the ultimate goal. But deep down, we all know that perfection is an illusion. No matter how hard we try, perfection is something we can never truly attain. Yet, we still chase it. The pressure to be perfect, to have the perfect job, the perfect body, the perfect life, can be overwhelming. But the truth is, perfection doesn't lead to fulfillment. Progress does. It's in the small steps forward, the growth we experience, that true satisfaction lies. Think about a time when you were pursuing a goal and things weren't perfect. Maybe it was a project at work, a personal endeavor, or a relationship. Things didn't go according to plan. Maybe there were setbacks, mistakes, or challenges. But here's the thing, even in those moments, you were still progressing. You were learning, adapting, and moving forward, even if the end result wasn't perfect. And that's where true growth happens. Perfection might feel like the ideal, but progress is what keeps us moving. Every step, no matter how small, brings us closer to where we want to be. Reflect on your own journey. How many times have you held back from taking action because things weren't perfect yet? Maybe you didn't feel ready, or the conditions weren't ideal. But as you look back, don't you see that the most meaningful progress has often come from embracing imperfection? The pursuit of perfection can hold us back from taking risks, from making mistakes, and from learning valuable lessons along the way. The key is to focus on progress, on improving little by little, on taking that next step, no matter how imperfect it might seem. So, the next time you feel the weight of perfectionism creeping in, remember this: progress, no matter how messy, is the true measure of success. Aim for progress, not perfection. It's through progress that you'll find your greatest achievements, your most fulfilling experiences, and the satisfaction of knowing that you're on the right path. And that, my friend, is enough. These points build on the emotional flow, guiding the audience from familiarity and comfort to a deeper understanding of pragmatism's core concepts. The narrative takes the viewer through personal reflection, nostalgia, and curiosity, engaging them in a thought-provoking way. Number 7, Prioritize action over thought. Have you ever found yourself overthinking a decision, spinning in circles, and never quite getting anywhere? It's something that most of us have experienced at some point in our lives. We get caught up in the endless cycle of analyzing every possible outcome, weighing the pros and cons, and running every scenario through our minds. We tell ourselves we're being thorough, being careful, but in reality, we're just delaying action. The truth is, thinking alone doesn't get us anywhere. It's easy to get comfortable in the realm of thought, where things are safe and controlled. But real progress, real success, comes from action. It's only when you take that first step, despite not having all the answers, that the journey truly begins. At first, taking action can feel daunting. The fear of making mistakes, the uncertainty of the future, and the pressure to get everything right can paralyze us. But here's something important to remember. No action is ever perfect at first. Every successful person, every breakthrough, every accomplishment was preceded by moments of doubt and imperfection. The key is to start, to make that move even when you don't feel fully prepared. Think back to a time when you were hesitant to take action. Maybe it was starting a new job, launching a project, or even having a difficult conversation. At that moment, your mind was racing with questions and concerns. But when you finally took action, didn't you feel a sense of relief, a sense of progress? The more you think without acting, the more you reinforce the fear of failure. And the more you wait for the perfect moment to act, the more time slips away. It's easy to sit in the comfort of planning and perfecting, but those moments rarely lead to tangible results. The pragmatic approach is simple: prioritize action. When you act, you create momentum. Each step, even if it's small or imperfect, gets you closer to your goal. Action isn't about perfection. It's about doing. It's about showing up, even when you don't feel 100% ready. Think about the times when you've taken action despite your doubts. Didn't those actions eventually lead to results, even if they weren't perfect? What would happen if you chose action over thought more often? The next time you find yourself stuck in a loop of overthinking, remind yourself, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start. Action is what transforms thought into reality, and it's through action that we make our dreams come alive. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect through action. Number 8. Test ideas in real life. We all have ideas, don't we? Ideas about what could work, what might be the next big thing, or what could change the course of our lives. It's natural to get excited by the possibilities, to feel that spark of inspiration that drives us to think big. But here's the catch. Ideas alone don't lead to progress. They remain just that, ideas, fleeting thoughts that never leave our minds. To truly know if something works, you have to test it in the real world. You have to take that idea out of your head and put it into action. Pragmatism teaches us that the only way to truly know if something works is to put it to the test, to see if it stands up to real-world conditions. Think about all the ideas you've had over the years, some big, some small, some revolutionary, and others just passing thoughts. How many of them remained just that, ideas? How many did you actually test, experiment with, and explore? We often hesitate to test our ideas because we fear failure. We fear that the idea won't work, and we don't want to look foolish. But here's the reality. Testing is how we learn. It's how we refine our ideas, shape them into something valuable, and understand what really works. Think back to a time when you tested an idea. Maybe it was a new project at work or a new way of doing something in your personal life. How did it feel to see your idea in action? Even if the results weren't perfect, didn't you learn something valuable? This is where pragmatism truly empowers you. It encourages you to experiment, to put your ideas to the test, and to learn from the outcomes. Whether it's in business, relationships, or personal growth, testing allows you to adapt, to grow, and to find what truly works for you. No matter how great an idea seems, it won't mean anything unless it's tested in real life. It's easy to get lost in thinking and planning, but until you take that first step and see how your idea plays out in reality, you won't know its true potential. So the next time you come up with an idea, ask yourself, how can I test this? What's the next step to see if this idea works in the real world? By testing your ideas, you don't just learn whether they succeed or fail. You learn more about yourself, your environment, and the ways in which you can adapt and improve. It's through testing that we discover what works for us, what fits into our unique context, and what moves us closer to our goals. So, don't be afraid to experiment. The real world is your testing ground. Number 9. Question assumptions. How many times have you made a decision based on assumptions? Assumptions about what's right, what's expected, or what you've always believed to be true. It's natural to rely on assumptions. They help us navigate the world and make quick decisions. But here's the thing, assumptions can often hold us back. They can lead us to make choices that aren't fully thought through, choices based on beliefs we haven't challenged in years. It's like wearing blinders that limit our view of the world. The key to real growth, to making informed decisions, is to question those assumptions, to step back and ask ourselves, are these beliefs still valid? Do they hold up in the context of what I'm facing now? Think about the assumptions you've held over the years. Maybe you assumed you couldn't change your career, or you assumed you'd never be able to learn a new skill. Maybe you assumed you couldn't achieve a certain goal because it seemed too out of reach. But what if those assumptions weren't true? What if your beliefs were based on old experiences or outdated information? When was the last time you truly questioned the assumptions you've held about your life, your abilities, or the world around you? It's easy to fall into the trap of assuming that things will always be a certain way, but this mindset limits your potential. Pragmatism teaches us to question the assumptions we make, especially when we're faced with new challenges. Instead of blindly following beliefs that may no longer serve us, we can take a step back and evaluate them. Do they still align with our current goals and experiences? Do they reflect the realities of the world we live in today? Challenging our assumptions isn't about doubting everything. It's about being open to new perspectives and willing to reframe our thinking when necessary. It's about breaking free from the limits of our own minds. The next time you make a decision, ask yourself, what assumptions am I making here? Are these assumptions based on reality, or are they based on past experiences, fears, or expectations? By questioning your assumptions, you open yourself up to new possibilities. You free yourself from the constraints of outdated thinking, and you create space for growth and innovation. So, be brave enough to challenge your beliefs and assumptions. The truth is, the more you question what you think you know, the more you'll discover what's truly possible. Number 10. Focus on solutions, not problems. We've all been there, caught in a situation where everything seems to be going wrong, where problems keep piling up, and where it feels like there's no way out. In these moments, it's easy to get stuck in the cycle of focusing on the problem. We become so consumed by the issue at hand that we forget there's a way forward. Our minds often spiral, thinking of all the ways the problem could worsen or the things we should have done differently. But here's the thing, focusing solely on the problem rarely leads to a solution. In fact, it often keeps us paralyzed, unable to think clearly about the next step. The real shift comes when we focus on solutions instead. When we shift our attention away from what's wrong and direct it toward finding a way to make things right, that's when we start moving forward. At first, this might sound simple, but in reality, it's a powerful shift in mindset. When we're deep in a problem, it can feel impossible to see beyond the frustration, fear, or uncertainty. It's natural to want to dwell on what's wrong, to analyze the problem from every angle, and to look for someone or something to blame. But focusing on the problem can quickly lead to stagnation. Think about a time when you were faced with a challenge. Maybe it was something in your personal life, a setback at work, or a tough decision. Did staying focused on the problem help? Or did it make you feel more stuck, more helpless? What would have happened if you had turned your attention to finding a solution instead? Now, think about the times when you were able to shift your focus from the problem to the solution. Maybe it was when you were working on a project that wasn't going as planned, or when you faced an unexpected setback. When you started to focus on the next step, on what you could do to improve the situation, didn't the energy shift? It's like suddenly seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. By focusing on solutions, you direct your mind toward possibilities, not obstacles. You open yourself up to creativity, to problem solving, and to the realization that there is always something you can do to improve your situation, even if it's just taking a small step forward. Pragmatism teaches us that life is full of challenges and difficulties, but it also reminds us that there is no problem so big that it can't be solved with the right focus. By focusing on solutions, you actively engage in the process of problem solving. Instead of wasting energy on what went wrong, you shift your focus to how you can make things right. This mindset doesn't deny that problems exist. It simply says that your energy is better spent on finding ways to solve them, not on endlessly worrying about them. The next time you find yourself overwhelmed by a problem, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what can I do about this right now? What solutions are available to me, even if they're small steps? By focusing on the solution, you empower yourself to take control of the situation, to make progress, and to move toward a resolution. The more you practice this mindset, the more you'll see that no problem is insurmountable. You have the ability to find the solution. You just have to make the choice to focus on it. Drop a thumbs up if you've watched this far. It shows you're part of the 0.01% who actually finish what they start. This kind of dedication is exactly what separates those who dream from those who achieve. You've learned how to control your mind with practical principles, and now it's time to put them into action. Don't let doubt or hesitation hold you back. Start taking steps today to shape your reality. If you're serious about transforming your life and embracing the power of pragmatic thinking, make sure to join our community by subscribing to the channel. Together, we'll keep growing, learning, and building the mindset that leads to success. Let's make those goals a reality.